This video is going to look at seventh chords. In the previous video on chords, we explored triads. But in this video, we're going to explore a type of extended chord called a seventh. Seventh chords are built using the first, third, fifth, and seventh notes of a major scale. Extracting the 1, 3, 5, and 7 from a major scale gives us what is called a major seventh chord. From here, we can use this major seventh chord as the foundation to build other seventh chords. And this video will walk you through the process of building major seventh chords and then altering them to form other seventh chords. Major seventh chords. We build these chords by extracting the first, third, fifth, and seventh notes from the major scale and stacking them on top of each other. In this example, we're going to write an E major seventh chord. So step 1, we need to write out the major scale of the tonic note or naming note of the chord in question, in this case E major. Once we have written our E major scale, we extract the first, the third, the fifth, and the seventh notes from the major scale to create the major seventh chord. Once we have these four notes, we stack them on top of each other in the stave, and there we have the E major seventh chord. E, G sharp, B, and D sharp. It's that simple. Now that we have this major seventh chord, we can use this as the foundation to build the other seventh chords that we cover in this video. We can achieve this by manipulating the notes in the major seventh chord to create other forms of seventh chords. To outline this, we will use the following formula flow map. As you can see, a major seventh chord takes the 1, 3, 5, and 7 from the major scale. If I flatten the seventh note, I end up with a dominant seventh chord. If I flatten the third note of the dominant seventh, I end up with a minor seventh chord. But I can have a detour, so major seventh to minor 7 is flat 3 and flat 7. If I flatten the fifth of the minor seventh chord, I have a half diminished seventh, and there's a detour, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7. Or if I flatten the seventh again of a half diminished chord, I end up with a diminished seventh chord, and there's a detour from the major 7, flat 3, flat 5, and double flat 7. So now we're going to apply this. There's our E major seventh chord. If we flatten the top note of our E major seventh chord, which is the D sharp, it becomes a D, and that's our E dominant seventh chord. If we flatten the third of our dominant seventh chord, which is G sharp, it becomes G, and they're the notes in our E minor seventh chord. If we flatten the fifth note of our minor seventh chord, which is the B, it becomes B flat, and they're the notes in our E half diminished seventh chord. And if we flatten the seventh again from our E half diminished, which is the D, it becomes D flat. We end up with the notes in our E diminished seventh chord. And that's our progress through the different E chords. So you can see that this method can create any seventh chord in any key. Let's do it again, but this time we'll start on B. Firstly, we need to write a B major seventh chord. So step 1 is we write out the B major scale, because that is the name of the chord. Now we extract the first, the third, and the fifth, and the seventh note from the major scale. So B, D sharp, F sharp, and A sharp. We combine them together to create the notes of a B major 7 chord. Now we stack the notes on top of each other in the stave, and that is our foundation to build the rest of the seventh chords that start on the B. So we apply our formulas. There's our B major 7. If we flatten the 7, which is A sharp, it becomes A, and we have a B dominant seventh chord. If we flatten the third of the dominant seventh, which is the D sharp, it becomes D, and we have the notes of the B minor seventh chord. If we flatten the fifth of the minor seventh, which is the F sharp, it becomes F, and we have the notes of a B half diminished seventh chord. And if we flatten the seventh again of our half diminished, which is our A, it becomes A flat, and we have the notes of our B diminished seventh chord. As you can see, we have once again applied the formulas and built all the seventh chords. You can apply this method to create a variety of different seventh chords from any major seventh chord in any major scale. And it's quick and simple to understand and implement. I hope that you found that this video helpful in understanding seventh chords.